are they willing to go over the luxury tax?
Right.
That's where the Steinbrenner family gets me. Hal and Hank are not the late, great George.
Mm-mm.
George would do that without question, without any problem. He would worry about that later because it's about winning and winning at all costs and winning at the highest level. I don't know if this fiscal family is going to be willing to do that. But with that being said, Lewis, I'm going to pose this question to you.
Sure.
Do you see this as an opportunity for the Yankees to find some way to also unload the contract of Giancarlo Stanton in a way? Because I don't question his talent. I don't question his ability. I question his durability. That's what I question.
Yeah, so here's the note I'll give you, and I'll give you two. I'll give you one on Cole, and I'll give you one on Stanton. Obviously, they have one more year of Jacoby Ellsbury, and that contract has been an albatross of magnanimous proportions. It's ridiculous. He hasn't played for them since 2017. As far as Stanton is concerned, they're still on the books for 7 years, and he just turned 30. The thing that I want to see them do with Stanton and the way that it's going to work, and I realistically, if you gave Cashman truth serum, it'd be like this. They want him to be healthy in 2020, and if he plays 135, 140 games, note he's averaged 108 games a season since he debuted, so obviously he's missed extended time due to injury. He's almost like Larry Walker Jr. But they're going to want him to have a strong 2020, and if they do, they're going to try to trade him. I don't think they're going to be able to do it this offseason, and I understand that comes in a very strange time because they're going to try to sign Cole. But Cole, in my opinion, is going to be the difference maker if he were to wind up there. And here's why. I mentioned this to Scott earlier. Cashman came out at the GM meetings yesterday and said they're interested in talking to Bumgarner. That's fine. But the problem with signing Madison Bumgarner, a pitcher who has been in decline the last couple of seasons and missed some time in 2018 due to injury, is the fact that you're going to have a very left-handed heavy starting rotation. You just saw CC Sabathia retire, a lefty whose average fastball velocity was pretty much in line with what we're getting from Bumgarner now. They also throw from similar arm angles. Teams pick up on this. That's what makes great offensive teams great. The Astros beat the Yankees because of their propensity to rely on left-handed starting pitching. Here's one thing, Xavier. The Yankees' projected starting rotation without Garrett Cole next year looks to be a mixture of Luis Severino, Masahiro Tanaka, who has a torn UCL, an UCL that's been torn since his first season of that 7-year, $155 million contract he signed prior to 2014. You have James Paxton, Jordan Montgomery, who is also recovering from Tommy John surgery, and Jay Happ. The commonality at the back end of that rotation is those are 3 consecutive left-handed pitchers. I don't know if they want to throw a fourth lefty in that rotation. Lefties are deceiving, but what makes them deceiving is they're a rare commodity. If you play a 3-game series against Tampa, a team that knows how to scratch out walks and they don't strike out that much.
Right.
I mean, look at a guy like Tommy Pham or Joey Wendell or Brandon Lau. Guys like that are going to pick up on that, and Paxton's going to have a rough time getting guys out. Obviously, we saw it in the playoffs until that last start that he made. But adding a fourth starting pitcher that is a left-hander, especially a guy that's declining, take him from a pitcher's park in San Francisco and you throw him in a hitter's heaven, a boombox in New York City, it's a recipe for disaster. Garrett Cole, on the other hand, obviously worked around 6 innings in Yankee Stadium with no command, and he wound up pitching a gem, obviously a compromised gem because of all the walks the Yankees took. But you're going to want to go with a power right-hander. Strasburg, on the other hand, he's not going to go there. I think he's going to go back to D.C. We actually heard a report today that the Padres are actually already out on him. They're not going to go after him.
Oh, is that right? Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
So, it's down to 2 teams, but I think Strasburg winds up back in D.C. Rendon.
Okay.
The Yankees could even look at Rendon because they've talked about trading Andujar. So, realistically, I don't like Bumgarner there. Stanton is going to have to regain some of that value, the trade value, obviously, I'm referring to, and they're going to try to unload that contract if he has a strong 2020. But that's an if. So, they have some questions that they need answered.
All right, let's curtail that discussion a little bit, and I want to ask you, Xavier, your thoughts about Justin Verlander winning the Cy Young Award in the American League.
It somewhat caught me a little by surprise. I knew he was going to be the first or second favorite for the award, but I honestly thought that was Garrett Cole's award. I really did. And Lewis, you spoke to me earlier in the afternoon, and you said you would have some interesting thoughts that would spread some more enlightenment on why the committee chose to go with Verlander over Garrett Cole.
Yeah, so here you go. So the one thing that I like to see, and it's an old-fashioned statistic, but it carries relevance nowadays, is innings pitched. Justin Verlander led baseball in innings pitched this year through 223 innings. Garrett Cole pitched 212 in the third innings this year, or 211 in the third. Garrett Cole averaged 6.43 innings a start this season, and I wrote a piece that you can find on the Tribune, Xavier, about why I believe Verlander's Cy Young Award was all but a formality. Verlander and Garrett Cole each limited opponents to an OPS of 579. What's more impressive about Verlander doing that is that he's facing the same lineups, and he did it over a longer stretch of innings. Obviously, that surplus of innings hurt him in the playoffs. We saw what a liability he was in the World Series. But the home runs, the 36 home runs that Verlander allowed, don't matter when they have the same opponent OPS over those stretch of innings. And if you want to talk strikeouts, Verlander struck out 300 batters too. He also had the second lowest ERA in a season in his career. So it was justified. He also threw a no-hitter. So purists like Scott and somebody like me who loves to see no-hitters, that was, I think that was the nail in the coffin for it. 2 Cy Youngs. Verlander's already a Hall of Famer. This just further solidifies
right.
it.
Oh, no doubt about that. So, hey, listen, we got about 2.5, 3 minutes to go. I'll let you two young next gens battle it out here. What do you want to talk about, and how is Lewis going to respond, Xavier?
Well, I also want to ask him about Jacob deGrom winning his second consecutive National League Cy Young Award. I knew he was in the running for it, but I truly thought that this would actually be Walker Buehler's award this year. I did.
Okay, so postseason doesn't count in the factoring for Cy Young Awards. The thing that hurt Buehler is if you look at his April statistics, they weren't strong. He had a rough outing in Colorado, I believe, where he gave up 7 runs. And to DeGrom's defense too, DeGrom had a 4.85 ERA in April. But one thing that separates DeGrom is the fact that he managed to pitch to a 2.43 ERA for a team like the New York Mets, who I did the calculations today, Xavier. The Mets were worth negative, I believe, 78 defensive runs saved, which means their defense was so bad they cost the Mets 78 runs on defense. So Jacob deGrom, there's another statistic I'm going to use. It's called RA9 defense, which factors in how much your defense helped you as a pitcher. DeGrom's not necessarily a ground ball pitcher because he led the league in strikeouts this year. He's a strikeout pitcher. He had 269 last year. He had 255 this year. DeGrom's RA9 defense when the Mets, and this is the Mets defensive metrics when he was playing, was negative .38. That's terrible. For Ryu, who's not a power pitcher, who finished second in the Cy Young race, the Dodgers, who are one of the best defensive teams in baseball, their RA9 defense was .5, which means they were 50% above average of the rest of the league, while the Mets were 38% below average. So DeGrom benefited from a bad defense. There's also a statistic called runs above average, which measures pitcher ability. DeGrom's runs above average this year was 52. Ryu's was like 33, and Scherzer's was 40. So wins are an arbitrary statistic. The Mets also only averaged DeGrom 4.1 runs per game. Scherzer, they got 4.4. For Ryu, they got 5.3. So DeGrom benefited from a bad offense, but he also was the best pitcher in the National League. Again, you want to use WAR, 7.3 pitcher WAR by Baseball Reference. That's the best of any pitcher in the National League. So his award was all but won, and he won it. So, it's entirely justified.
Okay. Well, I think that's probably, as far as I'm concerned, obviously, Mickey Callaway still gets somewhat credit for what he's done there.
Yeah.
And, I don't care what anybody says about Mickey Callaway. The guy can flat out coach, manage, maybe to the Mets standards. He's a great baseball mind. And the only thing I'll be intrigued about with the Angels situation as to what type of coaching staff they put together around Joe Madden. But you got an awful lot of good baseball minds out in Orange County. You really, really do. So, it's interesting stuff. I'm glad we had a chance to spend more time on both of these subjects as well. So we'll come up with some new material over the weekend. Xavier McKnight. Yeah, so Carmelo Anthony with the Blazers. We'll see what he's got. I've been to Portland before myself, so, very small market. Give him a chance to play, and why not? Those non-guaranteed contracts that both Dwight Howard has, and then you're talking about Carmelo Anthony. You have everything to gain, nothing to lose.
Remember
sure.
those Michael Beasley contracts? He got all those 10-day contracts he got with the Heat. So I mean,
Right. Well, I mean, the bottom line is low risk, high reward is really what you're looking at. So.
And Xavier.
Scott, I have two things I want to say before we go off the air.
Sure.
The first about the Carmelo Anthony deal. Listen, I believe that's a cage lion that's ready to pounce. I'm excited to see what it is that he's going to come out there and bring. Obviously, he's not in his prime anymore, but I believe he can help that team out exponentially. And when it comes down to the Mickey Callaway situation and the Mets, well, Carlos Beltran appears to be getting in some trouble. So we'll see how this ends up working out.
Okay, that's fair. Anything you want to add before we sign off?
Look, Xavier, you'll agree with me because you're a far bigger NBA fan than I am. But when he was going through that saga with re-signing with the Knicks, and even with all of these ensuing releases with Atlanta and Houston, I don't think there was one player in the NBA who did enough and performed on a professional level, said all the right things, but was treated as poorly as Carmelo Anthony was. So I give him credit. Even going back to his days in Denver and the days with the Knicks, Carmelo Anthony is one of the most professional and respected men in the NBA, in my opinion.
Well, okay.
I agree with you on that 100%.
All right, well, I'll let you guys agree on that. And meanwhile, that puts a wrap on this tonight's edition of the Sports Exchange. We'll be back at it on Tuesday night. Meanwhile, I hope both of my young guys and everybody else out there has a great, great weekend, and we will do it again. So on behalf of, my name is Scott Morganroth, Motor City Madmouth.
I'm Louis Adio Weiss.
And I'm the X-Factor, Xavier McKnight.
You guys have a great weekend, and we'll do it again next week. Bye-bye, everybody.
Take care.